Hello.
Hello.
And hello.
Oh my god.
What's up?
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Scary Talk episode 75. We have a very, very special guest with us here today, Shannon.
Yay!
It's me, your local witch. What's up? How's it going? I am now a fan of Scary Talk 2.0.
Finally.
This is the first time I've ever actually listened to the podcast. It's just when Sunny's been here, so...
Yeah, exactly. I don't think she ever listened to it before that because she couldn't stand her voice. I mean, how many of us can? So, frankly, I understand. But, dude, I guess she's a fan now, and she decided to join us. Shannon, I'm so happy you're here. The witch is back. The witch is back.
That's right.
I'm also very excited. I don't know. I'm like a fan at Comic-Con right now. I'm just very excited by everything going on.
I don't know.
Okay,
I kind of love that Sunny is 12 and is like super successful. I think that's like the best part of the show now. Is like
I know, dude. I know. I got a Prodigy co-host. Shannon, you could never. But also, it's just so good.
D12 and do this podcast.
I mean, I'm like a 55-year-old like boomer, so there's that.
A very adventurous one at that. I was watching Host last night, that new Shudder film. It's like people are talking about it everywhere. It's the Zoom call film where it's an hour long only, and you have like 6 friends on a Zoom call, and they do a seance, and they all die.
Nice.
Spoilers. It's like everyone's talking about it on Twitter, and I was thinking like Shannon would be the kind of person that would want to do a Zoom seance, and I'd be like, no, hopping the fuck out of here.
I mean, we would have to at least try. Okay, you can leave the call whenever you want, right?
I mean, I think Sunny might want to join. I think she'd be down.
I think I would be at the least interested on like a Facebook event, you know?
Yeah.
Oh my god, Andre, this is perfect. So if we ever get together, all 3 of us will have an additional person for a Ouija board, and that just adds more to the fun, you know?
We should have a supernatural get-together.
Sorry, I checked not interested on that Facebook event,
Oh, Andre.
So anyway, that to me is just the most kind of funny, ironic thing about Shannon, right? She's the most boomer, but she's also kind of just wild and ready to die at any moment, which I guess makes sense if you are old and a boomer.
Well, here's the thing. It's like, I feel like, Andre, you're so steeped in the world of the supernatural that you don't care to have, like, a seance or a Ouija board to, like, confirm what you think. But I feel like if Shannon is less, is more of a skeptic, she's like more open to the experimentation and the exploration.
Exactly.
That makes sense. She's not aware of the danger, so she's just putting herself up.
It's the scientific method. Someone has to do it so that we can confirm or deny. Hello.
Wow. That is very fair. Well, Shannon, thank you so much for joining us. Today, we are going to be talking time travel, and this is actually a first for us. I can't believe that we hadn't touched this before, but time travel it is today, and we have some interesting testimonials, I guess, that we're going to share of people who claim to have traveled through time. So buckle up for that, and here we go. Yeah, I mean, there's really no more. Like, we're literally,
buckle up in your little time travel machine, so that we can blast off.
We're gonna be talking time travel. This is just kind of you're either in it or you're not. Like, it's not like Ghosts, where I feel like there's kind of a gradient of credibility. It's just straight up time travel. You either believe in it or you don't. Sunny, would you like to start us off?
Oh, I'm so ready to start us off. I'm very excited. So, here's the thing, I've started to realize with these episodes, I always search out something that will make me believe in whatever it is that we're doing that week. You know what I mean? So I always
Shannon,
go through
do you hear that? Like Shannon would come at me one day and be like, okay, we're talking fucking skinwalkers today. And I'd be like, ooh, skinwalkers are spooky and real. Shannon would come to me with like, skinwalkers are a fucking farce. Like, that would be the dynamic of a skinwalkers episode. I'd be like, cool, thanks.
The thing is, I feel like 75% of me is on Shannon's side, but I try to lean into the 25 because it makes it more fun. And so I like look through the accounts, and I look for that one where I'm like, oh shit, this has me like turned. I really felt that in our reincarnation episode. Anyways, though, So, talking about time travel, I wanted to look into, like, what would this actually look like? And I don't know if we've talked about this before. I think I've talked about this with a friend of mine who's studying physics. But, basically, the rate that you go through time at changes based on the speed that you're moving. So, when you're in an airplane and you're moving, like, super duper fast and you come back down, you actually lose, like, I don't know, you gain... No, you do lose, I guess, technically. Basically, you're a billionth of a second younger than the rest of the people on Earth when you land after a plane flight, because you've been moving so quickly. And so...
Wait, so is Cher just like the Flash? Is that why?
That's... Dude, she's...
She keeps racking the milliseconds up. The bitch just running.
Cher's secret. No, yeah, but the idea is that if you move at the speed of time, you can, like, go through time at a much shorter rate. So if you were to move through the speed of time, like, away in space and then come back to Earth, you could have aged 40 years and the Earth would have gone forward like 60,000 years. So the problem with that, of course, is that, you know, the amount of fuel it would require, the, like, technology for that kind of travel that quickly is not really there. But as an idea, that checks out with pretty much everyone. So travel into the future, time travel wise, and that's not technically, you can think of it as traveling into the future, but it's really just like traveling at a slower rate in time while Earth specifically travels at this faster rate and going out and coming back. So that's actually super possible.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty much confirmed. The real question is whether traveling back in time would be possible, because that's a whole other story. You know, even if you like freeze yourself in time, like, time still moves forward, right? So the question of how to get back in time is the real one that seems to stump a lot of people. But that's why time travel is so cool. It's because it's this thing that is like that's right now in, I guess you could call it the realm of, like, the supernatural semi, but it's also kind of like science fiction, could be a thing if we get the technology for it, you know, which is really interesting. So anyways, that's the background on time travel. Yeah, a lot of folks who claim to be time travelers call themselves chrononauts, which I just thought was a really fun name. Like chrono as in time, and then not like a astronaut.
Okay.
But it seems like kind of the, like, false internet name for, I don't know. I feel like I've only seen stupid articles that are like, I'm a chrononaut. So
listen, if you can be a randonaut, you can be a chrononaut. Okay, I don't.
Oh, you're so right. Whoa, what a crossover.
Yeah,
you're so right about that. So the person that I chose is this old British guy who was born in, like, 1897, named Air Marshal Victor Goddard. And I chose him because he has actually a lot of spooky, supernatural sort of, like, happenings in his lifetime. But specifically as one involved kind of in time travel. But it comes off more as, like, a glitch in the Matrix type thing. So we can talk about it. But here is the story of Sir Victor Goddard, an air marshal in Britain's Royal Air Force. So yeah, in 1935, he was in his Hawker Hart biplane. I don't know what biplane means, y'all, sorry. And so he was a wing commander. So he actually had this pretty big rank in, like, the Royal Army. Not the Royal Army, it's the Royal Air Force, there we go. And he was on a flight from Edinburgh, Scotland to his home base in Andover, England. And he flew over what he knew was an abandoned airfield at Drem. This is still in Scotland. So the airfield should have been theoretically, covered with growth and just, like, basically like farmland at this point. But when he went over at this particular time, he encountered a really weird storm that was, like, throwing him around. We're talking some, like, not in Kansas anymore type storm. And he started to lose control of his plane and go towards the ground. So basically he's flying really low over the ground, and all of a sudden the airfield is occupied. And there are, like, a few key things that are different about it. So it has biplanes, but it also apparently has, like, monoplanes, which he had never seen before. And the mechanics were now dressed in blue overalls, which usually they were dressed in, like, brown/khaki overalls. And also a lot of the lines were drawn in yellow. Sorry, the planes were painted in yellow, which was also something that he hadn't seen before. So basically, he comes back and he tells his buddies, he's like, oh yeah, so he re-enters the storm, he ends up getting to his final destination, he's like, hey, I had this really weird experience, and no one believes him. And then 4 years later, that specific airfield at Drem in Scotland is renovated, and now all the mechanics there wear blue overalls instead of khaki, and all the planes are painted yellow, and they have biplanes and monoplanes now. So basically the idea is that he theoretically traveled like 4 or 5 years in the future to 1939 or 1940 when this airfield had been renovated, and then back to where he was in 1935 when it was overgrown and done for. And that is,
Wow.
yeah. And I don't know, this one is just interesting and spooky because it kind of here's the thing, if we are in a simulation, time travel should be much more possible.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Because you could definitely put someone somewhere back in code a lot easier, I think, than it is to like figure out the laws of using a wormhole to like circumvent the physical laws of our universe or whatever. But yeah, so he just had that little blip, and that was his like main paranormal story. But the interesting thing about our man here, Victor Goddard, is that he also has a brother. I think it's Ned Goddard, who has a lot of, I don't know, who just has like his own kind of cult following because he wrote a lot about like supernatural things and other things. And he's also involved, Victor Goddard is involved in a movie that was made in 1955 about a whole separate thing that he's involved in. Literally a separate event than his time travel one, and he had a movie made about it, a British movie.
So he had something more eventful in his life than time travel. Man.
Yeah, I know, right?
Good.
What is he doing? And then there's a photo that he has published where he took a photo of his squadron, basically, and it's taken on this specific date and time, and there's a member of his squadron in that photo who theoretically died like a few days before the photo was taken.
What?
Yeah, no, exactly. Wow. So I don't know what's going on with this guy. Maybe he's just like crazy, and that's why he has all these stories. But it's pretty sick. It's pretty interesting. Him and his brother. Oh, here it is. His brother is Neville. Him and his brother have a lot going on. So, anyways, what are your thoughts so far?
Interesting. I mean, I was just thinking about. Really, through the whole thing, I was just thinking, what if we're in a simulation and time travel is just like a bug? Like, that's why it happens so randomly and only to some people and for just these short periods of time. And when it happens, it seems to me that it's not for any like purposeful reason. Like, it's not like they are sent by some entity to see something, experience something, or learn something. It's just, oh my god, I saw the same field, but 10 years into the future, oop, and then they're just back, right?
Yeah, totally. Although it depends on which chrononaut you're talking to. Because I also definitely read some accounts of people who claim to be, like, from the year 2030, who are, like, back in our time now. Who were like sent by the FBI or something and are now trapped in our time. There were some interesting, like there's a lot of variance in terms of what people's accounts are. But yeah, I agree. This one is very much like a glitch in the Matrix type thing.
I think that if you believe that time travel is just something that you can kind of literally fall into, which is kind of what my story is about, then I'm thinking of kind of glitch in the Matrix kind of thing. If you think that time travel is something that there's a machine for and the government can control it, then sure, they can send you on purposeful missions. I guess it depends on what how you think time travel works, whether you think we actually have the technology to do it, or whether you think people who experience it accidentally. Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah, like, is it intentional, or is it, you just, like, sort of fall into it?
Yeah. Personally, I don't think we have the technology. I think that, I want to believe some time travel accounts, but the ones that I want to believe, they're always, like, I woke up and, oh shit, or, like, I fell and I woke up and, I was in this other place other time. Like,
it's true, yeah. Yeah. This could be our solution to global warming. I mean, not really a solution, but kind of a workaround. Yeah, no. You have everyone go in, like, this ultra-high-speed ship, and they come back to Earth in, like, 100,000 years when, like, things have somewhat improved, maybe. And then they just restart humanity then. That could be... Elon,
Is
get on this.
Is that like good for like the global economy though? Because then they're gonna have to like rebuild everything, and I don't know.
Oh
like,
yeah, no, it's gonna be shit for the global economy.
I mean, I guess who cares, right? Like, it's fine, but
It'd be so interesting. Imagine how they would choose like the 1,000 people for that. Like, what would that even look like?
oh, it would be Elon Musk and Kyle, obviously.
I mean, isn't a thing? Yeah, isn't a thing that's gonna happen? Well, okay, I heard that when spaceflight becomes available, it's gonna be like we'll we'll be able to fly from the Earth to the Moon and to Mars at some point in the future. Near future is the hope, and everything that you read about it is like, well, it's going to be very expensive and it's going to be very exclusive. So really, if anyone's going to like repopulate Mars, for example, it's probably going to be very wealthy people that can buy themselves a ticket there.
Totally. They'll probably do it just like they do college admissions. They'll be like, if you want to get in this baby, Slacks Hood, it's like you've either got to pay the fee or you've got to show that you've got enough to contribute that will put your ass in here anyway.
Oh my god, dude! The whole cast of Fuller House are the first people to colonize Mars.
Oh my god.
Here's the thing:
Anyway.
Fuller House wishes. Fuller House paid $500,000 for a bribe when, if they were rich enough, they could have just donated $10 million and gotten away with it.
Okay, now, Sunny, so you're a genius. Shannon and I can relate. So let me talk to you about this. So have you heard about the grandfather paradox?
Oh, I've literally like seen it come up, but I don't know what it is. No, what is it?
Okay, never mind. Let me put on the smart hat. So the grandfather paradox is basically this logical problem that you have if you are someone who travels back in time. Like, the idea is basically if you travel to a time before your grandfather had children and you kill him, then you stop existing because you were never born.
Totally.
That is, I bring this up because, we're talking time travel, and this is, at least to me, the biggest hurdle in past time travel concepts, right? Like, traveling to the future is, I think, a different thing, but whenever you're traveling to the past, I feel like it gets way, way muddier, because even if you don't kill your grandfather, even if you don't do that, when you travel to the past, the butterfly effect is something else that also happens, which basically, like, any number of very minute, mundane things that you could do could have an impact that you're not aware of to your present, meaning, the future, and then you come back to the present and, like, the world is fucked and Skynet rules us all, right? So, all because you stepped on a worm or something, and you have no idea what kind of chain of events you unchain.
Well, the interesting thing, though, is that it depends on how connected you think it all is, because if you think of it as, like, your body, your like physical presence is in the year 2020, and then you go back to the year 1900 and you're in that year, and then you do something where like your great grandfather now doesn't have your grandfather or whatever. I feel like in my opinion, you would still continue to exist in that timeline, but like your grandfather, father, and then you or whatever, as that timeline goes on, just wouldn't exist. So that specific instance of you that has traveled back would continue on and be fine, but like the future you would
that would suck.
Yeah,
you have to keep living in the 1900s and would never be able to come back to the present because the machine would be like, oh, sorry, present body doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah,
you were never born, you gotta stay here in the past.
Well, the thing is, you could just travel. Well, what if you just travel back to the present and, well, I guess it depends on the technology, but then you have to come up with an identity for yourself and stuff because you don't exist.
You could.
You
might just not have your family in your life that you had then.
Yeah. That is wild to think about that. That is a very, well, it's interesting, too, that it's so much more complex because, like I just explained scientifically, it's way easier to travel forward in time, or at least, like, in terms of what we currently know, we know it's far more possible than it is to travel back. And it's interesting that when you think about it conceptually, too, like, in terms of the effect that it has on people, it's way easier to envision, like, okay, we travel forward in time, we do something, and then we come back and everything's fine, than it is to imagine, like, we travel back in time, we change some shit, then we travel back to the present, what happens? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, the science lines up with, like, the complexity that we see in terms of our own individual experiences, and how they're affected.
I can agree with that. Shannon, thoughts on the grandfather paradox or the butterfly effect?
I mean, for one, like the grandfather paradox thing, that just totally reminds me of Futurama because, I mean, anyone who's seen that, like Fry, he's his own grandpa, basically. He fucks his grandma.
Wait, I feel like I saw just that episode because someone was like, this is really trippy.
Yeah, it's super weird. And he's like, oh, my grandpa's dead, so I guess she's not actually my grandma, so he has sex with her. Total fucking... Yeah, that's just ridiculous. Don't do that if you do plan on going back in time, please. But I mean, I liked what Sunny said about, you know, like the different like multiverse, like the timelines, because that's kind of something I was gonna cover, like just in the person I chose, because if you think about it, if you go back in time, anything you change is gonna, you know, it's gonna alter that. So obviously, like, there's a million different ways it could go, but it's like, does time travel really take into account multiverses? Like, is there a way to distinguish that? But I mean, we just don't know, right? Like,
that's a good point. Yeah, when you say like, let's go back in time, can you say like, yeah, because once you've done something in the past, you've created a new timeline. So can you then choose, like, I want to go back to my previous future, or I want to go back, or now I want to, like, go to the future that I've created now that I've changed some shit that's happened in the past?
Well, let's say that you are able to choose, and you're able to just come back to your regular timeline, your regular life. The more interesting question to me still is, like, okay, by traveling back in time to begin with, you still created this kind of new branch on a tree, right? This new timeline. You're not in it anymore. You're just letting it be, but it still exists. What happens if... I'm pretty sure I read about this concept some point in the past. What happens if, like, a multiverse collapses with another? Converges. Because...
Oh, that's so funny. You know, whoa, I'm totally getting deja vu right now. Whoa.
That's a thing that I read about somewhere. I can't recall where, but like, if you think of it as a tree and, you know, branches don't all grow outwardly perfectly, what if one branch crosses with the other? What the fuck happens then? If, you know, because if you think of timelines as, you know, kind of these rivers, I guess. What if they cross?
You know, that's actually such a... Oh, yeah?
Oh, I was going to say, have either of you watched Netflix's Dark? It's a German show.
Ooh, I've watched like the first like 6 episodes or so. I really enjoyed what I've seen so far, yeah.
Yeah, so like that show's like all about time travel, but like it's totally like the opposite of the multiverse theory in that like you think going back in time is going to change it, but that's what you were supposed to do to make the future stay the same. Which is just a bigger paradox, so yeah. I don't know, there's that too. Like
Totally.
No, I refuse. I'm getting a headache. No.
Well, that's the thing. What if it was like super predictable that you would travel back in time and do what you did? That's so wild. That also reminds me, like, I had talked to some friends about time travel at college, and I was like, yeah, so what if there's some timeline where I was adopted? I think I mentioned, like, yeah, there's a timeline where I could have been adopted. And then one of my friends said, and what if you, after being adopted, still ended up in this very room right now, like, studying at this university with these people? And I was like, whoa, shut up! That, like, freaked me out so much, and I couldn't explain why. And I think it's that, like, convergence thing. Like, no way, you know?
Yeah.
That's so, yeah, it's so interesting. Well, I mean, I guess if they converge... both still exist, and then they keep... the thing is...
like, how can both exist, though? Like, it can't, so I don't know what would happen.
Oh, they can't, they can't
maybe,
both exist.
Like, well, you're just fated to do certain things. Like, either way, she was, like, meant to go to that school. I don't know.
I guess, but that goes into the concept of fate, which,
right.
I don't know about you, Shannon. I don't believe in that.
I don't know. Probably not. It seems a little out there.
It seems a little like live, laugh, love to me. Like, I don't know. Just saying. But I totally believe in coincidence, and I definitely believe in everything happens for a reason, just not the live, laugh, love way, but more the literal, everything literally does happen for a reason. Sometimes, though, they're very shitty reasons, like, which then gets into the whole concept of, like, justice, blah blah blah. I think a lot of people say like everything happens for a reason because they kind of attribute that to some kind of like higher divine entity,
like karma,
because they want to yeah, see the world as a just place. So like when something horrible happens to a good person, they tell themselves, well, it's God's plan or whatever.
Oh,
So they don't
so
have to deal
annoying.
with the fact that the world actually is a very unjust place
Damn.
sometimes to good people.
That's a
so,
shitty coping mechanism.
I mean, but I kind of respect it because I guess it is very hard to have to open your eyes and be like, the world is shit.
That's
and
true,
even though I'm a
that's
good
true,
person, I
yeah.
could get fucking tortured and killed, like,
Yeah.
and not deserve
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Wow,
Anyway.
happy note. Thank you for that, Andre.
Well, this podcast covers everything, girl. We've been psych talk, we've been polity talk,
We've
we're
been
scary
vegan
talk,
talk
but
one too many
we've
times.
been vegan talk. Oh, I miss vegan talk. Sonny, we have to bring that back. Okay, now, Shannon, what do you have for us?
Oh, okay. So I actually, Sunny mentioned this dude coming from 2030. I think that's who I'm talking about. So
Wait, yes. Wait, I'm really excited. Okay, just go for it, Shannon, and I'm
Okay.
really excited. There's some stuff with John Titor, or John
Yes.
Titor. I don't know how to say his name.
I think it's Cheater. That's how I've heard it, but I don't
Okay.
know. So basically, guys, I just want to preface this by saying, like, there's a very, very high probability that this has already been debunked like a million times. But I learned about this a long ass time ago. So I learned about this like maybe 10 or 12 years ago, because my dad is actually a fucking conspiracy theorist.
Okay,
Anyway,
so back when you were 40.
right, exactly. So,
Wow, Shannon,
And-
parents who are conspiracy theorists. We'll have to talk.
right, and he believed it too. So I didn't necessarily, but I think it's interesting. So John Titor is supposedly a time traveler, right? So supposedly, and we also don't know if John Titor's a real person. So this is conceptually either the biggest internet troll, like, or the first internet troll to ever troll, like, successfully, or he actually is a time traveler, which I guess you can just decide for yourself. So
Jesus,
This
I guess if
occurred-
you want to form your own opinion. If you insist.
yeah, I guess you can. This occurred during the year 2000 and 2001, so we are fresh off the press of, Y2K scare, and the internet was still kind of like, like, not everyone was all about it, so it was pretty chill, so I think that's why he was pretty successful in, like, what he was saying. So what Titor said is that he was a part of the American military during the year 2036, and he was sent back in time basically to prevent World War III. So if you think right now we're in 2020, so like, when's she gonna happen? Like, when's she gonna happen, John?
I don't know, some shit's brewing.
You are correct. It really is. And that's actually funny you say that because of the stuff right now in the world, when I was doing research, there's posts from like the coronavirus that are like, did John Titor predict this? Like, people are still asking that question.
Yeah.
Which I think is funny 20 years later. So basically, have you guys heard of the paranormal radio show Coast to Coast AM?
Yes,
Yeah.
I've heard about that.
So this was like an old radio show hosted by Art Bell. So in 1998, this is kind of when he got this letter from someone who claimed to be from the future. It came in by fax, which if you're from the future, I'm sure there's better ways to do that, but it's 1998. So John Titor sends Art Bell a letter, and this is what it says, and he reads it on his radio show. Dear Art, I had to fax when I heard other time travelers calling in from any time past the year 2500 AD. Please let me explain. Time travel was invented in 2034. Offshoots of certain successful fusion reactor research allowed scientists at CERN to produce the world's first contained singularity engine. The basic design involves rotating singularities inside a magnetic field. By altering the speed and direction of rotation, you can travel both forward and backward in time. Time itself can be understood in terms of connected lines. When you go back in time, you travel on your original timeline. When you turn the singularity engine off, a new timeline is created due to the fact that you and your time machine are now there. Some interesting outcomes of this are: 1. You meet yourself. I have done it often, even taken a younger version of myself along for a few rides before returning myself to the new timeline and going back to mine. 2. You can alter history in the new universe that you have just created. Most of the time, the changes are subtle. Sometimes I'll notice car models that don't exist or books that come out late. Unfortunately, it was also discovered that anyone going forward in time, from my 2036, hit a brick wall in the year 2564. Please pray that we discovered the reason why there's no apparent future after 2564.
This is creepy, dude.
It is really creepy. I mean, not any more creepy than any fiction writer, right? But I think that there's a couple things that are really interesting about this and why it kind of resonated with people is, for one, like, he's talking about what we were just talking about. It's like this multiple timelines. Like, he's not saying that when you go back in time, like, you can fix anything. He's saying that when you go back in time, your future is going to change completely. And then just the whole, like, the world ending in 2564, like, what? Like,
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
that's the first time that John Titor, like, spoke to anyone was through that radio show. And I mean, in theory, that's kind of like a big signal to me that it's not real, because he targeted something that was already pretty famous for attention. But the thing that really got it kind of convincing people is that he started posting on Art Bell's forums after the radio show, and he continued doing it for like months, kind of answering questions, kind of like a Reddit AMA, like, ask me anything, I'm John Titor sort of thing. And he posted some stuff that they couldn't really tell, like, okay, like, you would have to either work for the companies that, you know, he's talking about this advanced technology to know about, because it was so advanced for the year 2000 that people really believed it. Like, they believed that either he was letting go of confidential information or he actually was from 2036. Which 16 years from now, like, obviously we're not in John's original timeline, but I can't imagine we're going to have a time machine in 16 years with everything that's going on. So there's that. But, so his username was time travel _0. Really original. He did not originally introduce his name until the forums that he was posting on Art Bell's forums, and the original fax to Art didn't have his name, so that's when he first listed his name. So he claimed to be an American soldier from 2036 based in Tampa, Florida. He was assigned to a governmental time travel project and sent back to 1975 to retrieve an IBM 5100 computer, which he said that he needed to debug various computer programs in 2036, which I guess could be a reference to the world ending or something. I'm not entirely sure. But he said that he was selected for this mission specifically because his paternal grandfather was directly involved with the programming of the 5100. And so to support this, he began describing unpublicized futures of the 5100 IBM computer. And that is one of the reasons people still can't really explain this, which, I mean, that proves that he knows information, but it doesn't prove that he's a time traveler. So, whatever you want to do with that. So, he claimed to stop over here in 2000 at the time for, and I quote, personal reasons, supposedly to collect pictures that he had lost in a future civil war and to visit his family. Which, you know, that's kind of cute. Like, that's nice. So there's one thing that is, that kind of came up with the coronavirus or whatever, and that is that he did predict that a pandemic would kill approximately 100,000 people in the future. However, the pandemic that he talked about was Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, and it basically spread through beef products. So yeah, he did not predict coronavirus, which for some reason, I mean, yeah, maybe it's just a different timeline. Maybe that disease is coming for us. I don't know. So he talks about a civil war happening because of issues with people becoming more extreme, which, I mean, yeah, that is definitely happening. So he describes it as beginning in 2004. The civil unrest surrounding the presidential election of that year. This conflict he characterized as having a Waco-type event every month that steadily got worse, that would pretty much be at everyone's doorstep and erupt by 2008. So that would be a 4-year span of a president's term. And, I mean, if we're on a different timeline, I don't see why that can't be happening now with Donald Trump. I mean, he's just off by a little bit, right? Like, so, according to him, at the end of this war, the United States would split into 5 regions based on various factors. And so it would end in 2015 with a brief but intense World War III. I guess Washington, D.C. and Jacksonville, Florida are specifically mentioned as being hit and kind of annihilated. After the war, Omaha, Nebraska is going to be the new U.S. capital. I'm just sharing this because I think it's kind of interesting. Like, he really came for, like, this full, like, world history. Mm-hmm. And so he has this whole, like, backstory to all of this. So he claimed that when he was 13 in the year 2011, he joined something called the Fighting Diamondbacks, which is an infantry unit in Florida. And so that's pretty young, but whatever. And then he goes on to describe his time machine. So this is another big reason that people really buy into it, is because in the year 2000 there wasn't a lot of, I mean, that's the thing, 2000 sounds so, like, recent to me, but I guess for them, they thought this was really incredibly smart and not something they'd thought about before. Mm-hmm. So for him, he called it a stationary mass, a temporal displacement unit powered by 2 topspin dual positive singularities, and it has a cooling and X-ray venting system, gravity sensors, cesium clocks, and there are diagrams, I guess, that he supplied. So it's kind of wild, because he gave all this information so freely, and that's another point of contention. If you're going to time travel to the past, why are you sharing all this information? Yeah. Even if your timeline is, I don't know, not going to be great.
I mean, the one thing about the John Titor situation that makes me think isn't real is him saying, "Oh, you know, people who try to time travel to the 2500s, they kind of hit a wall. It means the world ended." That's obviously not true, because the world's ending later this year. So, to me, that's already a red flag. Just saying.
I mean, you're not wrong. I do think 2020 is probably the end.
I mean, it's even a nice round number, you know, and it's kind of, you know, it matches, you know, kind of cool number to just be like, ooh, the finale, final season.
Hindsight's 2020.
I know. That's what they meant all along.
Well, I wanted to share just a couple of comments of people who, on Reddit, who, like, had thoughts on John Titor, because I thought they had some interesting things to say. So one person is called Theory Fiend, and they posted this a year ago. So he said, if you believe him about the war, then you would also find this interesting. Basically, Theory Fiend has a theory that 9/11 was done in our timeline in order to prevent the American Civil War by uniting people against one common enemy. So I thought that was interesting, but I mean, we're not really, I don't know if you guys want to talk about 9/11 at some point, but like that's a whole nother situation, you know?
I can't believe, now that you say that, Shannon, out loud, I can't believe we've never thought to.
I think that we had discussed it, but it just didn't happen.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. Well, Sunny, get ready. You're in hot water.
Oh boy.
Pizzagate wasn't enough.
Oh my gosh.
And then another thing is from Trippy Squid. He posted this 4 months ago. Pretty cool username. So he was just kind of reiterate. He says that someone who draws comparisons between our timeline and John Titor's is missing the point entirely. That Titor claims that his predictions will not and should not come true, as he is from a different timeline from our own. So that's just kind of another like way of kind of getting away with being like, well, I'm from the future, but also like you'll never be able to prove it. So
no, exactly. He's like, let me tell you all these things that are gonna happen, but actually only in my timeline. So
yeah, exactly.
They're not proof at all. Yeah.
So that's John Titor. You guys, if you wanted to look more deeply into it, like there's more specific things, but I don't personally think he was, I probably not a time traveler. There is a theory about who it actually was created by. I think it was two brothers or something. Who was it? Oh, in 2009, they had an investigation that he was the creation of someone named Larry Haber, a Florida entertainment lawyer, and his brother, a computer scientist. So I don't know. Yeah.
Very interesting. Also, okay, here's the thing. If you go to myanimelist.net, which is a list compiling people's anime lists, like the anime that they most like and stuff, and manga, of course. And you look at the top anime series of all time. The second highest of all time in terms of ratings by white people, because not necessarily white people, but by English-speaking people, because that is the language of this website. Steins Gate is number 2. So, and Steins Gate is this series that actually completely focuses on John Titor.
What?
Yeah, it's a time travel anime, and I don't want to give away too much more because a lot of the anime, like, some people go into it not even knowing it's a time travel anime, and you don't see it until like the 8th episode. So sorry, spoiler alert. But it has a really, really cool plot. It's a fantastic anime, and I strongly recommend it. I'm really exposing myself here.
Sunny's a weeaboo, in case you guys didn't know. I mean,
but here's the thing: when I heard, I'm like 12% Japanese, so I'm excused. But when I heard John Titor's name, I was like, oh, that's weird. And actually, a lot of the plot of Steins Gate revolves around like this Japanese person being the actual John Titor who travels in time and like does shit. So this is all that to say that John Titor is like an international phenomenon. For it to have reached like creators in Japan, and for them to then reclaim it and say like, no, it wasn't an American soldier, it was this character in our anime. Like, pretty cool.
wow. I mean, what if he wrote the anime icon?
Yes. Just saying, like, John Titor is this really big, like, international thing. Just interesting.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
That, Shannon and Sunny. Thank you for that addendum.
Oh, of course.
So before I get into what I have, I just wanted to bring up really quickly an update on #FreeBritney. Very, very important.
Yes.
We are only 3 random of many vigilantes across the internet trying to keep an eye out for the story and communicate it to the peeps. So here we go. Okay, so I don't know if we touched on this before, but if we did, I want to clarify. So Britney Spears' younger sister, Jamie Lynn Spears, Sully 101, she is now in control of Britney's $57 million fortune, which is good because she's not the new conservator, but she's in charge of the money aspect. So that's something that's no longer in the hands of her father.
Thank God.
That's in the hands of her sister, so that's good.
Totally. Also wild that Britney doesn't have more money, to be honest.
I know. I mean, didn't we touch on this? Like, she has to pay so much to her dad for being a conservator, and also so many legal fees to her attorneys that she doesn't even necessarily need, but like, because she's in this legal binding agreement, she kind of does need them. It's ridiculous. Like, this kind of sucks her money out of her. I do agree she should have more money, but I mean, her dad gets a big salary for being her conservator.
Yeah, honestly, it's like, you're telling me Kylie Jenner is a billionaire, and then Britney Spears, who's released like God knows how many hit albums, isn't like a 100 millionaire? Somehow that doesn't, like, what? That's wild.
I know it doesn't. I know. So that's one update. The other one, this is way more recent. This is from like today. So Britney Spears' lawyer filed documents to oppose Jamie, so her dad, Britney's dad's motion to seal parts of Britney's conservatorship case from the public. So he's trying to hide information, and Britney's lawyers are like, no, we want to put this out there. And the thing is that, like, there is this instrument within a conservatorship called the fuck is it called? The I don't know. There's some kind of clause that allows you as a conservator to keep a lot of information from the public, and he uses that tool a lot. And Britney's team is like, "Stop it! We hate him doing this." Britney doesn't like it. Just to be clear, she doesn't like that. This is a quote from Britney's legal team. Britney herself is vehemently opposed to this effort by her father to keep her legal struggle hidden away in the closet as a family secret. That's a quote from her legal team. It came out today, and
that's some big shit that they're laying down.
Oh, it's a big shift. She's supporting the Free Britney movement, whereas so far she's had to be very coy about it on Instagram, not really addressing people's questions. You know, she doesn't say anything about it, but now she's kind of coming out and being like, "Yeah, I'm kind of held hostage. Surprise! Who knew?" Her team also said that there are no medical issues or sensitive issues with her children that need to be kept from the public, which is what her dad is saying. That's why he doesn't want to release info.
Hell yeah!
She's saying that's not true. And finally, her team says on this statement, Britney welcomes and appreciates the informed support of her many fans. And says that she says, far from being a conspiracy theory or a joke, as her dad reportedly told the media, in large part, this scrutiny is a reasonable and even predictable result of James' aggressive use of the sealing procedure over the years to minimize the amount of meaningful information made available to the public. So she's going all in.
Hell yes,
she said,
Britney.
"You're allowed to have opinions about my life." Well, Britney, noted. I'm so excited. Wow.
I
Free
know.
Britney.
Free Britney. Wow.
I love it because so recently her dad had told Page Six, this is a quote from her dad, "All these conspiracy theories don't know anything. The world don't have a clue. It's up to the court of California to decide what's best for my daughter. It's no one else's business." And that just rubbed me the wrong way.
Oh my God.
It just... No, I feel like it's up to her.
Yeah.
Because she's in this fucking agreement that you kind of don't want to let her out of. I guess it's up to the courts now. So...
Yeah, and he's like,
just saying.
"Get out of my business. If I want to control my daughter, I will."
I know, it's crazy.
No, totally. It's also, I feel like last week we had covered Chadwick Boseman's death, and then we had talked about...
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Now, after a week of seeing people's, like, updates and thoughts on it, I feel really bad. Because I feel like we had immediately been like, "Oh, people get so sad over celebrity deaths." But some of the posts I've seen have been really, really heartfelt. And I do... I know.
I mean, but maybe they knew them. Though. Maybe they knew him.
No. Like, no, people like who are my friends, who were like making posts about how much Chadwick Boseman had affected them, and also, to be fair, celebrities who knew him and stuff too. And
I mean, I guess it makes sense. I guess we just didn't see it that way because Chadwick Boseman, it wasn't someone we looked up to or that influenced us a lot. But I guess if you have a celebrity like that in your life and they die, like if Britney died, I'd be sad. I don't know that I'd write something on Twitter, but, you know, I'd be privately sad. So I guess that makes sense.
Totally. Yeah. So I want to retract my previous statement and extend a sincere rip.
Sonny, what if I did tweet something and it was like, "At least she's finally free. Hands together emoji." That is fun.
Oh, that would go up on the Scary Talk Twitter immediately.
Okay, so let me tell you guys what I got. So I'm gonna be talking about this guy. His name is James Richards.
Okay.
So you may have heard of this. This was like a big thing back in like 2009, like across blogs and across the internet. So James Richards is basically this guy who claims he has a Beatles album that they never made, and this album is available online and you can listen to it. And people
I'm gonna pull it up right now.
No, right now, but right after, yes. So people have tried to debunk this, saying no, these are just kind of demos of other songs mixed together. This never happened. But the guy, he's insistent that this did happen. Here's the story, right? So this guy claims that one day he was on a drive to his house. He lives here in California in a town called Livermore. And while driving, he stopped to let his dog pee.
Wait, Livermore, California?
Yeah.
That's such a British sounding Californian town name. I
know.
My spidey senses are tingling already. Okay, yeah.
Okay, it is real, I promise. I've been there. It's not that great.
So he lets the dog out to pee, and they're walking around, whatever, and then he trips over a rabbit hole, Alice in Wonderland style, I
What?
guess, and while chasing his pet. Not that he falls into the rabbit hole, but I guess he trips over it and hits his head, and then when he wakes up,
Oh no, I'm checked out. I'm done. I'm good. You don't just trip over a rabbit hole and black out.
he tripped over a rabbit hole. Okay, you shut up. He tripped over a rabbit hole. This happened. So then he awakens, and he is met by this strange man named Jonas. Who
What?
claims to be
Of course his name is Jonas. How could I have predicted that the strange man's name would be Jonas? Please let me know.
Guys, you are giving this man no chance, okay? Now, Jonas claims to be an interdimensional tourist
Hot,
who supposedly
great.
found Richard unconscious while visiting from a parallel Earth and decided to lend a hand. So,
He said, "Oh, buddy,
Okay.
you tripped over a rabbit hole. Let me help you out."
no, okay. No. So I don't think you guys understand. I originally thought that the story was that this guy like tripped, woke up, and he was in an alternate dimension. That's okay. So I guess that is what happens, but this is technically how it happened, which I didn't understand until I did research for this a couple of days ago. Technically, what happened is nothing would have happened to him by tripping and waking up. Really, nothing. It's the fact that this guy, Jonas, is the one that went from his dimension to ours and found this guy who had hit his head just in a fucking park laying down on the grass and was like, oh shit, he needs help. And instead of calling 911, I guess because I don't know, that would blow his cover somehow. I don't know. He decided to take him back to his dimension to give him first aid.
Oh my god, shut
So-
up.
What? Are you kidding me?
That's the
And
worst
that's
thing
why
I've
when
ever heard.
Richard wakes up. And that's why when Richard wakes up, he's in an alternate dimension. Not how I thought, because he hit his head and that made him travel.
That's
no,
way too
this guy just
funny.
fucking took him.
Take me on the alternate dimension ambulance, please.
Which definitely doesn't help the story, because I really thought it would be more believable if you just hit your head and woke up somewhere, right? Anyway, so he said, and Richard says that Jonas told him that normally he didn't take outsiders through a portal, but in Richard's case, he thought that he needed urgent help. So again, instead of calling an ambulance, he just took him through his time travel portal. So what happens? While visiting with Jonas, Richard gets talking with him on the topic of music, and then he's shocked to learn that a number of bands from our universe existed in this parallel universe as well, including the Beatles, which that wouldn't weird me out, because it's parallel, I would think it's pretty similar. But I guess he expected, I don't know, like just aliens. So when their name got brought up, the Beatles, Jonas mentioned that Jonas's brother, just got back from seeing them perform at a concert recently, which Richard was very surprised by, and he was like, you mean they're still together? And Jonas said, yeah, they are. And Richard then says that he told Jonas about how they had broken up in our world and that John and George had passed away. But apparently, in Jonas's world, they were all still alive and healthy and touring. Ringo Starr style, I guess. So, 90 years old and touring. So,
Hell yeah.
Hey,
the zombies
would
are
certainly
still
like
touring,
that.
and they were similar timeline. They're crazy.
True. So after being shown Jonas's collection of cassette tapes, Richard says that Jonas handed him a handful of tapes with a store-bought cover of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, which is a famous Beatles album. Mm-hmm. But the cover looks slightly different, and he, parallel universe things, so he noticed that. But it had the same songs as the album from our universe. But then he starts looking at more albums, and he notices a couple of titles that he's never seen before. And he plays a few songs from one of those albums that he's never seen before in his world, and it's totally surreal to him. And so he keeps talking to Jonas, and Jonas keeps talking to him about Beatles music, whatever. At some point, Jonas tells him he sees that Richard is really interested in the tapes, and Jonas tells him, by the way, I'm sorry, but you can't take any of them as souvenirs. I know you would like to. So Richard is like, oh, okay, I understand. And then he steals one, and then he says goodbye.
Oh my god, what an asshole.
Yeah, he sneakily shovels the tapes around, and then he kind of pockets one, and then he bids farewell to Jonas, who I guess saved him from, I don't know, brain hemorrhage, and then arrives back to Earth, which like that to me is the more interesting part. Like I want to know what the fucking machine was like. Like how did you get back? Was it just like did you like click your heels 3 times? Like what was it? So he arrives back on Earth, and he now has this unreleased Beatles album, and he uploads it to the internet for everyone to hear. And that's an album that you can listen to now.
Dude,
and that's just the backstory
this is
to
why,
that
like,
album.
from now on, I just need to look up what you're gonna discuss, Andre, because I wish I had already listened. I'm a Beatles pro. The Beatles were my top artist. No, they were my second to top artist of 2019. Like,
Really? I didn't
yeah.
know you were a Beatles stan.
No, and the thing is, I don't publicize that info because I feel like people are either like, A, you're fake, or like, B, that's like, I don't know. People, I get that they're like an old. I don't think that Beatles are God. I think that's the stereotype about Beatles fans is that people are like way too into old music and stuff. But I do really enjoy a good Beatles song, and they just have so many good songs that it's easy to like listen to a lot of them. So I would be very interested to hear what this guy has released and what that even is.
That's interesting. I didn't know that you were so into them. You know what? After this episode, go listen to that. Next time we record, I'm going to ask you for your reaction.
Oh, hell yeah. We can do like a little
album.
warm-up segment where we talk about
it. Okay, so now, guys, I want to, because I can't help myself with Reddit stories, I want to read you a little Reddit time travel story.
Ooh,
okay? And I
I want
y'all's reaction on this.
Before you go in, though, that's also... Did you see that movie that came out called, I think, Yesterday? About the guy who, like, gets...
Yes!
Yeah, that's literally the plot of
Yes.
Yesterday, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah, it's just so interesting.
I mean... different but very, very similar, and I did like that movie. For those of you who don't know, Yesterday is this movie where this guy, he like gets what the fuck is it? He gets hit by a bus or something, and oh no, there's like a power outage in his town, and at the same time he gets hit by a bus. So I guess that causes some cosmic event where like everyone after the outage doesn't remember the Beatles, but he does, and now he passes himself off as I wrote all the Beatles song and performs them and becomes super famous. So interesting, good movie. I really recommend it. Yeah. So,
oh my
anyway.
God. Yeah,
Okay.
that whole thing. That guy's
What?
just full of crap.
No, you need to listen to this album, Shannon. You will be touched. You will be transported, maybe to Jonas's basement. Who knows? And you will believe. Okay.
If you're an interdimensional traveler, like, you wouldn't just tell everyone you're an interdimensional traveler. Like, that just doesn't... No, I would just leave that fucker laying there.
If you essentially hitchhike with an international time traveler, though, or sorry, whatever, with an international time traveler, with an
international interdimensional.
If you essentially hitchhike with an interdimensional time traveler, I think you would tell people about it, though. I think that's what gives his story a unique angle.
I mean, yeah, I agree, and also no. I mean, I think Shannon's more saying, why would Jonas tell this guy that he said?
Yeah.
But I mean, if Jonas took Richard to his house, he'd notice that things are different, and I think he'd ask questions, so that's why he told them from the get go. But also because like, who cares, right? Like, if Jonas is in his dimension now, and now Richard is the guest, and not the other way around. What's Richard gonna do?
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know. The other thing, though, is if you're an interdimensional time traveler, much like someone who, like, travels seeing nature, you're probably gonna see a lot of violent shit, right? Like, you're just gonna end up seeing people get hurt a lot, and I doubt that you would take the time to save everyone. So that might be...
Well, see... Yeah, that makes me feel like we're missing a big part of the story where Richard and Jonas, like, made love, but, I mean, we don't have that piece of it, so...
Yeah.
That would make more sense now. Honestly.
Yeah, why don't we take him to this apartment, right? Right.
Whoa, Jonas's intentions revealed, but yeah.
Okay, listen, you guys. So, this story is called Time Travel Exists, but it's more horrifying than you can imagine, and it's by user The Thing That Will. So, listen up. Time travel exists. Kind of. Hundreds of years from now, future humans are going to think the form of time travel we have is archaic, akin to a manual typewriter or a telegraph. That's basically as far as the technology has advanced. With the development of the Future Messenger, is what I'm reading it as, but it's basically an acronym, and it's FUTRMSG system, we can send short text-based messages back in time. He said emojis. The current limits can only send it back 24 hours. But through that miracle, we can change our past. Avoid disaster, bypass financial ruin. Cheat death. As long as it fits within the sort of character limit, you can send yourself any kind of warning or advice. The reality around us automatically accommodates the changes you make. But unless it affects our lives, we can't even feel or perceive reality changing around us. At first, this messaging system was confined within government headquarters, but once the private Future Messenger company replicated the technology, this miraculous technology was made available to the public. Kind of. When I say available to the public, I don't really mean the public. The system is exorbitantly, prohibitively expensive.
Of course.
It costs many times more than most families' annual salary to send even one message. But for some, that's just a drop in the bucket, and our society has splintered even farther into the very, very rich and the extremely desolate poor. This is obviously a real story. Now, the rich have infinite redo buttons they can push to create perfect, error-free lives, and the result of us...
Jeff Bezos said, I am God.
Basically, and the rest of us suffer in the dirt. Did you guys hear that Jeff Bezos was recently named the richest man ever alive? No,
God.
The first person ever, the first person ever to reach $200 billion net worth. Isn't that insane? That is insane. Like, we have no other record of anyone ever reaching that net worth.
When you think of
which,
it like $1,000 million times 200, that's insane.
Right. That is insane. I think some people under that tweet that I saw were talking about, no, well, technically we'll be Rockefeller when you adjust to inflation. And like, yeah, and blah, blah, blah. But the fact is that it's never been recorded as that number in present time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when Rockefeller was alive, that wasn't his fortune, even if you adjust it now and it comes out as that now. So that to me is just fucking insane. Let's continue. So this guy says, and the rest of us suffer in the dirt. I've obsessively imagined changing my past, avoiding the spectacular misfortunes I've had. I once dreamed that I sent a message to my past self, telling my husband not to get on the bus the day a crash ripped his body to shreds. But as the dream started to melt away, I woke up to my filthy, tiny home with my young son Luke, tugging at my sleeve about how hungry he was, sobbing. My heart breaks for him. Luke is all I have left. Okay, well, guys, what would you use this for if you could use it for one thing? I would tell myself to not listen to Taylor Swift's, what's it called?
Shut up.
Her new folk album.
I hate that so much.
I haven't listened to it, so I am the purest of you all.
She's in the clear, yeah. No, what would you use that for, Sunny?
If I could, like, if I could go back to any time, or if I had to, if I just had it from now on for a 24-hour or whatever?
No, if you could send your past self, your 24 hours past self, a text message.
And I could use it right now?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, what would I don't know, I would tell myself 24 hours ago stop being so depressed and work out. I don't know. And then my life would go exactly the same way anyway. I'd be like, fuck you, and then I'd keep...
Shannon, do you have one now, or do you want to wait till the end of the story?
Okay, yeah, I do actually have one. I would have actually told myself to order DoorDash at 4 o'clock, because I would have been able to eat it, and it didn't happen, and I'm kind of hungry now, so...
Honestly, understandable. Now, listen up. So... the reality is that when my husband died, I spent the 24 hours after the accident frantically begging for money on the streets, among the teeming crowds of unfortunates pleading for help. My city is a sea of poverty and purgatory for the dead, waiting in limbo to be resuscitated by a message from the future.
God.
But they almost always stay dead.
Dang, where did they find our hometown, y'all?
I know. So, tonight, there was a knock at my door, and a small glowing capsule was delivered. A message from Future Messenger. What? How could a version of me 24 hours in the future possibly afford this? What could this be? How could it be more dire than my husband's death? I press my thumb into the white orb as it scans my thumbprint and... oh my god. The color drains from my face as I read the message. I start shaking. Have I possibly sent this? What? What happens? I read the words again, and yet they still say... kill Luke right now, I beg you. That's the end.
Wow.
Whoa.
What does that mean? I am confusion. I like it, but I am confusion. Like, does that mean that she's telling herself, like, did she kill her son and somehow got money with that and sent the message? Or What?
Oh, that's an interesting take. I thought it would be like something really bad happens because of Luke. She somehow gets money to send that message. But that's an interesting take that she is so fortunate based off of it. Interesting.
I like your take though. That makes sense. Yeah. Ooh.
I feel like this should be chapter 1 of a story, you know? And then you go into like the rest of that day. Really chapter or like chapter 1 of a short film. I don't know. Let's do it, y'all. That's crazy.
It's pretty good. I liked it. So that's what I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's our episode for today.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
That's some
we
Abraham
did
and
it.
Isaac biblical, you have to sacrifice your child type stuff. But yeah, yay, end of the episode.
Yes. So on that note of infanticide, I want to tell you guys that if you have any future episode ideas, please do let us know by DMing us at, where can they DM us, Shannon?
Fuck, I don't even know what this podcast is called. Is it called, like, Spook Sisters? Like, what is this? Like,
Spook Sisters. Oh my god, fuck. I'm renaming this podcast. You can, for now, until it's renamed, you can DM us at Talk Scary on Twitter and Instagram, and at Scary Talk on Facebook. Also, remember that you can listen to this podcast on any and all podcast listening platforms, such as which, Sunny?
Oh, what is that one called? Fippy Spot?
Fuck.
Fippy Spot. Fuck
Okay,
no,
you
that's
guys are
not
both
it.
We are
fired. I've been taking the
professionals.
podcast on my own. Yes, remember, Anchor. Fuck you guys. Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, etc. So, Shannon, anything else?
oh, go fuck the Mothman. It's time, It's September
my
of
God.
2020. Let's go get it on with the Mothman.
Dude, the Mothman. I gotta bring that back for the end of episodes. Also, no big meals before bedtime. I've lost those phrases, and they must be brought back. So, thank you, Shannon.
You're
I am
welcome.
actually right now sitting in my desk chair recording this with my Scary Talk merch pillow behind me. By the way, we
Ooh, that
we have
plug.
merch.
Yes!
Reminder, it's all on our Twitter and Insta
And it's cute as
Facebook
hell.
bios.
It's really good merch.
It is cute as hell. Yes. Anyway, Sunny, anything else?
It was Tospify. Sorry. That was the listening platform.
Anyway, that's our episode. Free Britney. Good luck,
Thanks
everyone.
for having me.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah. No, thank you for coming, Shannon. Really, it
was fun.
I'm sure people will be really happy to hear your voice.
For real, for
and,
real.
Yeah, we'll definitely bring you back for episode 300. So.
Oh my
there's
God.
that,
Hell yeah.
and good night, everyone.
Good
Bye.
night.